Yeah, that's not working. Here at State of Charge, my primary focus is electric vehicle news and reviews, as well as electric vehicle charging information and reviews. But on occasion, I will review other battery-powered devices. In particular, I've reviewed a couple of electric snow blowers, one made by Ego and another one made by Snow Joe. But a new type of snow blower has caught my attention. It's an autonomous robotic snow blower made by Yarbo that has a throwing distance of about 40 feet, a 12-inch cleaning height. It does auto mapping, it has AI vision, and GPS for navigation. And I thought it would be a great opportunity for me to review this autonomous robotic snowblower. So I reached out to Yarbo. They agreed to send me one of the units to review, and that's what we're going to do here today. However, when they sent me the unit, this is what arrived at my house. 4 very large boxes plus 1 small box. And the more I looked into the product, I realized this isn't something I can just do a quick review of. I'm actually going to break it up into 2 parts of the review. The first review, which we're going to do here today, is an unboxing and also assembly and programming, because the unit needs to be programmed and set up to be able to clear your specific driveway. And I think it would be too long if I tried to do this all in one video. So that's what we're going to look at here today. We're going to do an unboxing now, and then we're going to program the unit and then wait for it to snow here in northern New Jersey. Let's get into it. All right, so before we begin, I had to figure out how to even do an unboxing video with all of this. If you ever watch any of my EV charger review unboxings, it's very easy. I can sit it on a table, put an overhead camera in, and set up the whole unboxing scene. But with this, it was more difficult because look at this. I think this is going to work this way, but we'll see. With that said, let's get into it. Okay, I'm out of breath and we're unboxed. Now I gotta figure this stuff out. So what I'll do is read some of the instructions and then take a piece by piece and go over exactly what each thing does and what I have to do to assemble this whole unit. All right, so I took a little time to do some research on the unit. I have to admit, I came into this completely blind. I had no idea what this unit consisted of. I simply saw a video online of somebody using this and I thought it was cool. Reached out to Yarbo. A couple days later, they responded saying, "We'd love to collaborate with you. What's your address? We'll send you a unit for review." Gave them the address and all of a sudden the boxes started to appear. I'm really going into this blind. I didn't know what to expect with this. Now that I see it here, did a little bit of research, I understand what this thing's all about. So let's talk about the pieces here and then we'll go into the assembly. So first up, this unit here is called the Core. This is really the backbone of Yarbo's system because this device here is what powers and moves everything. The snowblower is just an attachment. Yarbo also sells other devices like a lawnmower. And now that I have the Core, maybe I'll get the lawnmower. If this works as a snowblower, I'll get the lawnmower attachment. And when it warms up next year, see how well it cuts my 2-acre property. So this is the unit here that powers everything. This is the snowblower attachment. This is the docking station where the unit charges. It recharges itself. It's doing its duty, snow blowing the driveway or cutting the lawn. And when the battery is low, it comes back to the charging pad, pulls up on it and recharges itself. And then it goes back out and continues its task. So this is the unit that recharges it. This is the power cable that you plug into the recharging pad. It seems like it's pretty long, so it should be able to reach an outlet. These are spikes if you're going to mount this or position this, say, in a grassy area, dirt area. And then these are expansion bolts if you're gonna bolt this thing down to your driveway or concrete or something like that. This is the battery here. It's heavy. I just weighed it, and it weighs 22 pounds, 6.4 ounces. So it's a heavy, good-sized battery. I don't know the exact amount of kilowatt hour it is, so I'm gonna look that up. There's the user manual for the Core and for the snowblower. This is the snowblower chute, as you can see here. I have to attach that. This is like a snow clearing thing that snaps onto the top of the unit here like this. This is all the parts that I'm going to need to put it together. And unfortunately, I opened the box upside down, so everything fell out. So it's not nice and neatly organized, but I'll take everything out, put it on a table when we do the assembly. These are the treads, the snow blowing treads. You can see there's metal spikes, so this has good traction. It comes standard with the track for the lawnmower, so that wouldn't work well in the snow. It's got these studded tracks for snow blowing, so I'm gonna have to put these on before I start. Let me see here, what else we have here? Oh yeah, on this side. This is the data center. I have to mount it on a pole outside and connect it to my home's Wi-Fi because it needs to communicate with the Core to tell it where to go and give it instructions. There's poles that I have to mount this on. So once I assemble everything, mount it outside, connect that to my home's Wi-Fi, which we'll go over. So that's it for most everything. All the small bits in there, you'll see when I assemble it, which we're going to do next. But this is the unit. It's a little bit more involved than what I originally thought, but it seems manageable. Now that I looked at it and I watched a video of Yarbo's video of installation, it's pretty straightforward. But rather than just embed that video into this video, I'm going to basically copy what they did and do it myself, just so you could see me assembling the unit. And then we'll take it outside and we have to have it learn my driveway. Well, first we have to connect the Wi-Fi, and then we'll have it go up and down the driveway, set the parameters, and wait for snow. All right, so I have everything laid out on the table here, or at least the small pieces. I still have the big pieces and the tracks and the battery and everything on the ground. But this is unpacking everything. And one mistake that I made, well, it's not really a mistake, I did it for this video, that I don't recommend you do, is I commingled all of the pieces for the Core and for the snowblower. So that's probably not a good idea. You want to keep all the parts separate because you're going to use certain parts with the Core and certain parts with the snowblower. But the good news is, even though there's a lot of stuff here, everything is labeled very clearly. There's names on all the individual pouches for all the screws that give you the exact description of what they're for. And even, for instance, the tools, this tool kit here, which I'll be using, usually when I install whatever electronic devices and they give you tools, I use my own tools because I have better tools than what they give you for free. But for the case of this video, I'm going to use what they give me so you can see exactly what's being used. I mean, for instance, with this, there's 4 different Allen keys. And even each Allen key is labeled Allen key number 1, Allen key number 2. So when the instructions call for Allen key number 2, you know exactly which one to use. You don't have to fumble and try each one to figure out which one fits. So this is not going to be a walk in the park, but after looking at the video that they provide and the instruction manuals, it's not that hard, easy, if you just take it one step at a time. I recommend looking at the written instructions, but then also looking online. Yarbo has some instructional videos for assembly, but make sure you watch the correct video because Yarbo's had different versions of this. And at first I was watching the 2024 or maybe even 2023 version, and I was like, that's not how it looks. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, they have a 2025 model, which is what I got here, packaged differently, different pieces and everything. So make sure you're watching the correct video if you're watching a video, or you're gonna get confused like I was for just a hot second until I realized, wait a minute, it's not apples to apples. So, okay. I'm going to start the installation process. And step 1 actually calls for changing the tracks on the Core unit, removing the lawnmower track and adding the studded snowblower track. So let's start off with that. All right, so first up, we're going to be replacing the tracks with the studded winter tracks. And for that, you need Allen key number 2, Allen key number 4, and also the track wrench that's provided. First thing, we have to take the unit, lift it up on its side, and this is not light. It weighs about 130 pounds, so make sure you don't hurt yourself lifting it up. Okay, there we go. Now we take Allen key number 2 and loosen the 4 bolts that's on the top of the unit that hold on this cover on the side of the unit here. So let me loosen those up now. Okay, and you remove that cover. Next up, we have to loosen the bolt on here and also remove another one of these Allen key screws on the inside. So first I'm going to loosen up this bolt here. Okay, you only need to loosen it. You don't have to completely remove it. Now I'm going to remove this Allen key here. This screw is too small for Allen key number 4. Interesting. So I suppose this needs Allen key number 3, but the video instructions clearly said to use Allen key number 4 on that screw there. So first problem, we're not far into this and the instructions are already wrong. So let me get Allen key number 3, which would be up here, put 4 back. Now let me see here. Yeah, that's it. It's Allen key 3. So let me take this screw out now. Okay, that's out. So now we have to loosen up the track. And I actually forgot how to do that. I thought I remembered the whole process. So now I got to take a look at the instructions again really quickly because I have to loosen up the track in order to be able to get it off. And I forget what the next step is. I think I have to loosen up this bolt in here. Yeah, let me just take a quick look at the instructions again and we'll jump right back. Okay, I'm back. And we do need one more tool to complete this operation, this small track wrench here. And where it goes is right in the middle of the track rail. You'll see there's a hole and you slide it in, there it fits in, and now you have to loosen it up. So let me, it's nice and tight. So I suppose I have to make it tight. There we go. Okay, you've got to loosen this a lot, more than you even think, in order for it to be loose enough to take the track off. So I've got it nice and loose. Now, there's a lot of grease on the track, and I knew this was coming, so I did bring some latex gloves. You probably want to put some gloves on because there's a lot of grease on the tracks themselves on the inside. So let me get this on. Okay, now pop this off. There we go. And let me grab one of the new ones. You also have to put it on in a certain way. There's a forward and a backwards. So let me take a look at this. First, got to snip off the zip ties. There's 3 zip ties on here that keep it tightly wrapped for shipping. So let me take these off. And it doesn't show you a direction. Usually there's like arrows on it that would show a direction. And there's grease on this too, so be careful. Let me see. Interesting. It doesn't show you the direction, but I assume it would be, this is the front of the unit. So it looks like the tracks would go this way so that this, let me see. No, this way. So that it's grabbing, yeah, as it goes. So I'm pretty sure this would be the way that it is. It's odd, there's no arrows like front. Usually whenever you have something that it's important that it's going in the correct direction, but I'm betting that it's this way. If it's wrong, I will switch it later. Let me see. Get this on. Got it. As loose as I made it, it's still tight. Okay, it's on now. So now I have to tighten this up, and then I'm going to put the cover back on, tighten the bolts up. The opposite of what I did. I don't need to show all that on camera. Tighten this up, then put the bolt back in, tighten this screw up here, put the cover on, and then do the other side, and then we'll skip to the next step of the assembly. All right, so before I jump into the next step, I wanted to quickly show you how to reinstall the tracks. The tracks need to be installed with the tread facing forward so the core has maximum traction. You can see here how I have the tread facing the front of the core. This is how it needs to be installed. Then once you have the track on, you need to tighten the bolt that expands the track guide, and you can see the tracks getting tighter. You then put the screw back and tighten it with the number 3 Allen key, tighten the bolt next to the screw, and finally restore the track cover and tighten the 4 screws with the number 2 Allen key. Once that's done, repeat the process for the other side and move on to the next step of the assembly. State of Charge is powered by Qmerit, North America's premier installer of electric vehicle charging equipment. After I've helped you decide which charger to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and have Qmerit install it. And if you do follow that link, Qmerit will waive the $150 installation deposit. But this is an exclusive offer for State of Charge followers. So in order to get that offer, you must follow the link in the description of my videos. Okay, so now that the studded snow tracks are on the core, the next step is to connect the core to the snow blower. And to do that, first we need to remove this little foam cover here that says remove before use. Okay, that guy's gone. Then we need the number 2 Allen key, and we need to open up this cover here. So let's remove this screw. And the cover pops off. Keep that screw in there. And now what we need to do is connect the 2 units. So this connects to here. So what we have to do is bring it close, get this a little bit closer, connect this to this. It snaps and connects itself. Now what we could do is attach the 2 units together. I could put the cover back on first. I guess that's probably a better idea. Let me snap this in. There we go. Make this nice and tight so it doesn't vibrate itself loose. There we go. Okay, once the cover is back on, what we have to do is lift the unit up. There's 2 handles here, and slide it together till you hear a snap. There it is. Yep, it's snapped together. Now that the units are mated, next step is to install the snow chute. Grab this here. Now you notice there's a yellow arrow on the chute. There's also a yellow arrow here where it mates. You want to line that up. There we go. And now we're going to get the snow chute connection bolts. And there are 6 of them in there, conveniently, because there appears to be 6 holes. Let me open these up. Now what you want to do is you want to install only 4 of the bolts. The 4 that are around the back, the 2 in the front that are on either side of that yellow triangle, you don't want to install those yet. That's the next step. So you use the number 2 Allen key. Once those 4 screws are attached, what you need to get next is this chute diverter. That goes in the front here, and you use the final 2 screws to go through the chute diverter and into the chute itself. Now once the chute is on, we have to connect the chute cable. To do that, grab the cable right here. You notice there's a nut floating on the cable itself. What you have to do is put the cable through this hole here with the threaded end sticking through. Bring the nut down and then tighten that. You can hand tighten it, and then you get one of those little wrenches that they provide and tighten it the rest of the way. Or you could use one of your own proper tools, which I would be doing at this point if this wasn't an instructional video. Next step, you remove this little screw on the top of the chute here. And you have to bend the chute down a little bit in order to get the screw back in the hole. And this you just hand tighten. So the chute is installed. Next up, we're going to install the battery. And for that, first, let me get rid of my tools. You remove the battery cover, which is here. It pops off. I have the battery here behind me. Okay, what's the front? This is the front. Yarbo should be facing, actually this is the rear of the unit itself. Drop this in, this guy is heavy. And then right on this side here, you'll see is the plug-in. You lift up the little cover for the plug and insert plug there. Get it in nice and tight. It snaps in at the end. Now we're gonna put the cover back on. Pops on the same way it comes off. Now, and this really depends on where you live if you're concerned about this, there's a couple of screws that you can put in, which I'll do because we're doing here. It's the anti-theft screws for the battery cover. There's two little screws in this pouch and also a tiny little Allen key. And those screws, one screw goes on each side to keep this cover closed. Now, I wouldn't be concerned about it where I live. Nobody's going to steal my battery. I mean, out here, if someone was going to steal anything, this whole thing would be in the back of their truck. But we'll put the two screws in just to complete the installation. There's one on each side of this battery cover. So let me put those in now. I got it in, it fell out. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward through this procedure while I do this. This is not easy. I'll get a close-up of where the screw hole is. It's tucked in underneath here, and there, I dropped the other screw. So I'm gonna cut back when those two screws are in. All right, so I did get those two battery anti-theft screws in there. Somehow my fat fingers got into that little crevice there and screwed it in. So next we have to install the two high RTK antenna. And to do so, first you have to remove this little red tab that's protecting the screws on the top. And then also you pull this little red sticker on that black sort of big thick gasket that says remove before use. So that should be pretty obvious. The thing is, it's holding this from this big thick gasket is holding the antenna cable from falling into the hole. So you don't want to just remove it and let it drop because it might drop down in there. So let's get this screwed in first. So at least I know, at least I know it's not going to fall down. I probably should be only holding one antenna at the time, but that's me. I'm holding two. Screw this in here. Okay, now that it's nice and tight, I don't have to worry about it falling into the hole. And let me get the screws for that. The bolts for high RTK antenna mount, or what you use. Looks like there's 3 on each side, along with the number 2 driver. And let me get these in here. Okay, once that one's in, we'll put in the second one. Okay, Now that the two RTK antenna are on, we have to install what they call a hollow antenna. And that goes on the, I guess if this is the front, the right side rear next to the battery. You have to remove this little plastic cap first. And then let me get that antenna. Now that comes in a bag with two other antenna. And we need to use the hollow antenna for the rover, which is this, it's about 7 inches long antenna. There's a larger antenna in here. That's the hollow antenna for the data center. And then a short stubby antenna. I think that goes on the data center also. But let's put this antenna on here. Okay, and on to the final steps. Okay, we're almost there. Next step, grab your little snow chute cleaner, snap it on the holder on the top, and then what we have to do is come around the back, lift up the emergency stop button. When you press this down, the unit will not move. It won't do anything. So press this up. Then we have to open up the panel on the rear that has the power button, which is located in the top left corner of here. You press that in. Now the unit should power up. It is powering up. The lights are on. We got the yellow flashing light. I'll put this panel back on here. Now it's making a little noise. All right, beeped. So far, so good. Now we're going to get the control panel. Let's see what it's doing. It just seems like it's checking itself out. Okay, I got to turn the control panel on by pressing the center button, and then this lights up, and it does come with batteries. Now, I have to learn how to use this thing, but just quickly, I think I pressed the 2 buttons in the bottom, and then push this forward. Maybe not. That's the snow throwing. I don't think I want to press the buttons on the bottom. I think I want to press the 2 buttons on the top. Now, let me see. Push it forward. There you go. And backwards. Let me see if I can turn this way. That's so cool. All right. Oops. Let's see if it'll run into me. It will.
Collision occurred.
Collision occurred, but it did run into me. There is a grate in the front, so the impellers wouldn't have hit me, but still, I would have thought that this thing would not hit somebody. See, it is hitting me. Let me try this again.
Collision occurred.
So, okay. All right, well, it works so far. Now let's continue the assembly. We have to set up the remote antenna that'll communicate to this and pair it with Wi-Fi. But for now, this unit seems good to go. Pretty cool. Surprised it hit me like that though, because I thought it was supposed to have sensors that it wouldn't run into something. And I mean, it'll run into me. Let's try it again. Oh!
Collision occurred.
Yeah, collision occurred. Okay, well, in any event, I know what I'm going to be playing with tonight. So we'll continue the assembly of the remote antenna unit that communicates with this. And as I said, hopefully we'll get snow soon. Okay, now that the Core and Snow Blower is set up, it's time to do the data center. This is an integral part of the Yarbo system. This controls all of the communication, so it's super important that it gets done right or nothing's going to work. Okay, so first up, let's take a look at what we need for this step. We have over here our poles for mounting it. We're going to do a ground-mounted installation. You could also mount this on the side of your house. And quite honestly, if I like how this works, it works well. I'm going to mount it on my house. It's just a better installation. It's cleaner. You don't have to worry about cables on the ground. So I think the first step now, just for the review, is to mount it right outside my house. Now it has to have clear, unobstructed view above it because it needs to communicate with satellites for navigation. So you don't want to put it under a big tree or something like that. I'm just going to put it in my front lawn where there's nothing that's going to obstruct it. But if I do want to change it later on, like this is going to be on this ground mount, say, for instance, this, I'm going to have the second pole. But if you wanted to do it later on your home, there's a T connection here. You could install it like this, put this on your home, like sort of have it standing up like this, coming off the house with the unit on the top. So you could also mount it on the side of your home, and hopefully we get to the point where I want to do that. And then you also need these connection bolts for the pole. There's 3 antenna, and then there's an antenna bracket, and the number 2 Allen key besides the data center itself. The interesting thing is this bracket here that I have for the antenna. I'm not sure exactly how it goes on yet because both the Yarbo video and my user manual show a different type of bracket. They don't show this bracket. The interesting thing is, for the user's manual here, I have the 2025 user manual for the snow blower, but they sent me the 2024 user manual for the Yarbo Core. They kind of update this annually and it changes slightly. I noticed differences in the video when I put together the Core, slight differences, and that's why I really wanted to make this video. This is really specific for the 2025 model. But now I see there's also, they upgraded or changed this bracket, so it's different than what's in the manual and what Yarbo has on their website. I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out when we get to that point. Okay, so let's get started. First things first is we've got to pass some of this cable through the poles before we connect it to the main unit. Let's get going. Okay, so I'll start up with the base pole. This is the standard pole for data center. This is the extension pole. And you want to make sure that the opening here is on the bottom. So you want to thread the cable through the bottom because you're going to need that later on. When you attach the pole here, it needs a way to get out of the base, the cable does. So let's feed this through this. Let me set this up over here. Feed this through this. Then I'm going to put the T in place. Now use the T to connect these cables, even though you're going to do it in a straight line. The way you do it is you feed the cable through that opening there. Now I'm going to connect it to this here. Let me see. I got to make it sure that it's the right way because I got to be able to screw it in later. Actually, I think this has to be like this. Let me see. Yes, that was the right way because you have to, that's interesting. You have to make sure it goes the right way because you want this to be lined up and then this to be lined up with the hole. So when I put it in the other way, I wasn't going to be able to use this screw here to tighten it up. So let's get this in. That's locked in place. Now we will, let me see, feed it through the other way. I don't think this matters. Both ends look the same. So, and they both have the screw. So let's try it like this. See if this lines up on the bottom. I'm sure it's going to be okay. Let's see if it lines up like here. Yes, that's going to line up. So let's get this in and then that locks in place. Okay, so this is connected. I'm actually going to get this cable and drop it onto the ground because it's going to be in my way if I leave it up here. Because we need some area up here to work with. So you need to pull through some of the cable to give you some working room up front. Now, let me see. Now what I think we need to do is attach this here. Let me see if I can get this. Yes, like this. You have to feed the cable out of here, press this in, and get it to snap in. Now the cable's coming out, and now, right, we'll be able to screw that in later. Okay, so next up, we need to get the cable now connected in here. And to do that, we have to remove this cable strain. To remove the whole thing. There we go. Okay, and then separate the locking nut on the bottom. Now, inside here, you'll see there's a rubber gasket. You have to get your finger and push it out. Okay, now once it's out, there's a plug here that has to get removed. You don't use that. Take that off and you don't use that. Now we need to take the cable, and this is going to go on first. Then this is going to go on like this. Right, that's how we have to do it. Now we got to put this thing back in. I think I got it, yeah. There we go. Okay, now that's in. So now what we have to do is connect this inside. There is, I don't know if I can lift this up so you can see, probably not, but there's a connection right in here for the cable. And let me plug that in. All right, it's plugged in. So now what we're going to do is bring this in, tighten it up. And hand tight is fine with this. This is a plastic cable relief strain. You don't want to put a wrench on that and break it. But just get it nice and tight. All right. So now you can see on the bottom here, this is watertight. No problem with getting any type of moisture or anything in there. Okay, so next up, it's adding the antenna. All right, so before we add the antenna, although you probably could do it now, wouldn't make any difference, but the instructions say before you add the antenna, we're going to tighten the connection bolts on the pole, which makes sense. There's, looks like about 7 of them here, but I think I'm going to be using one of them on the base, which we won't use now until I mount this outside. So we have to put one up here at the top of the pole. So let's get that in here with the number 2 Allen key. And tighten that on the top of the pole. Now I can see it's not lined up, so I have to push it a little bit harder. There it is. The screw would not have gone in if I didn't adjust the pole a little bit. So let's tighten this up. Okay, once that one's in, we need to screw in the 2 bolts on my 2 poles here. Again, if you didn't use the extension, you'd only need 1 screw. So let me get this in here. Okay, and now that the 3 screws on the pole are mounted, I'm going to mount one on the base. I'll get rid of some of this slack by pulling this out and just leave a little bit there. And now what we'll do is pull this wire up a little bit and slide it into the base. Make sure that the opening in the pole matches the opening in the base, and then I should be able to screw this last screw in here. Well, actually, there's a couple screws here. Let's see where they are. Now that the base is on, you can see it can stand up here like this. I need to put the antenna on. Okay, so the first antenna I'll put on is this big one, the Halo antenna for data center. Remember, we put that, it's actually hollow, not halo, H-A-L-O-W. We put the hollow antenna on the core. This is the one that communicates to that. And that's on the side here. It is marked hollow. So let's put this on. All right, tighten it up. I'd imagine it's probably going to go up. And then we have the Bluetooth antenna data center. I think that's Bluetooth. It's marked on the side. Put that on here. Again, we probably are going to stand these up like that. So, and then this short stubby antenna says RTK antenna for data center. And on the top it is marked RTK. So we're going to put that on there. Okay, now This is the antenna holder. The only thing I can imagine is that it's going to go here. Actually, it says this way. It does say this way to ground. So I'm going to put this way on this one and then this on this. Okay, so that's got to be it. The other antenna brace that they show in the video and in the manual was a smaller one that clips on just to this side and it bolts to the main unit itself. So I guess for 2025, they changed it. This seems like a much simpler solution as long as it works. And that's it. We have one screw left. I guess that's an extra screw. Now it's bring this thing outside, mount it to the ground, and then I'll run it through a window or something, the Ethernet cable, just so I have connection, and move on to the next step, which is to install the charging pad. All right, so I've selected a location that's close to the house. I can run the Ethernet cable right into my garage where I have a connection. I'm going to sit this out here and should be unobstructed here for now. We should be good. Let me get my spikes. These are the ground mounting pegs. Actually, they're super long screws. And let me grab this and put it right here. Get one in the ground. There we go. And I'll get the second. All right, so all three of the ground spikes are installed. It's pretty stable. I wouldn't say this could last forever, but it's going to last a snowstorm or two for sure, I can tell you that. And then I'll decide if I'm going to keep this, and if I am, I will mount it on the house. So now let me run the cable into my garage and connect to the internet. Next up, we're going to install the charging dock for the Yarbo. And this is actually our last step before we download the app, connect the unit, map out the route to clear the driveway, and then wait for snow. So we're almost there. I know this has been long. And this is super easy. All we have to do basically is find a suitable location for the charging dock, which isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. I had an area picked out in the corner of my driveway, which would have been perfect. I think the Yarbo would just back itself up, and then when it needed to start, it would just pull straight out and start snow blowing the driveway. However, after reading the instructions and looking at one of their videos, I realized that the charging pad needs to have 7 feet of clearance of any objects all around it. This cannot be up against a wall or next to your house or something like I was going to do it in the driveway. It was up against a retaining wall. So instead now I've got to put it kind of in the middle of my backyard. I'm going to do it this way for this instructional video, but then I am going to move it around and see just how close I can get it to objects where it still works. But for the sake of the review and this video, I'm going to follow exactly the instructions that Yarbo offers, and that means nothing can be within 7 feet of it in any direction. So that's a good section of real estate that you need to take up. But I think I found a spot in the yard right behind my house. And you use these pegs if you're going to install it in the grass like I did with the data center. And they also give you these expansion bolts if you're going to be installing it, say, in concrete or in pavers. Actually, I wouldn't use these for pavers because they're going to expand and crack the pavers. So you could find something else, maybe drill through the pavers and then use these to go into the dirt underneath the pavers. But they do provide you with the expansion bolt and also these long screw-in pegs, which we'll be using these. And then you simply just plug this into this corner of the charging dock here. and connect it to either plug it directly into an outlet or use an extension cord. I'll need an extension cord for this because it's going to be in my backyard and far enough away from my outlet that I'll need an extension cord. But this is the charging pad here. It is tapered, so the Yarbo drives up on it. It actually drives up first and clears the snow, then turns around, backs in, and backs up to charge. But for the first charging session, I'd imagine the battery's probably low. It just came out of the box. I'll manually be pulling it up onto the charging dock, let it charge, before we do the final step where I download the app, pair everything together, map out the driveway, and then wait for snow, which is sooner than later. We might actually get snow tomorrow. I don't know how much, hopefully at least it's a couple of inches. And if that's the case, I'll be able to follow up with my review really quickly after the video for this setup video post. So let's go out to the yard now and set up the charging dock. All right, so the charging dock. The part of this whole assembly and setup that I thought was going to be the easiest is turning out to be the hardest. I couldn't put it where I really wanted to, right in the driveway, because there's two walls, my shed and a retaining wall. So then I was going to put it just like 10 feet from there in the middle of the grass on my backyard, but the Yarbo just couldn't get itself up on the charging dock. Yeah, that's not working. It just kept slipping on the grass. Even though it has the studded tires, it dug up my lawn a little bit, so that's not good. So now we're gonna go on the corner of my back patio here. We've got 7 foot of clearance all over, so it should be good. The only thing is, I'm not drilling through these pavers right now and putting the spikes in because I'm not sure that this is where I really want it permanently. So hopefully it won't have a problem with this thing sliding. I think once it snows and it has to go up on it, the snow and everything around it's going to hold it in place. So the Yarbo should be able to get up without pushing it. But if it does, it'll push it to the grass, and then it should stop by then because there'll be snow here. So this is kind of a temporary setup. But as far as showing you how to install the spikes or the expansion bolts, if you don't know how to do that, you shouldn't be doing this whole setup to begin with. So let's back the Yarbo up on the charging dock now. Let me see if I can get it on without. It's also takes a little bit getting used to. This is not like an RC car. It's harder than an RC car. All right, let me see. But here we go. All right, I'm pretty good. I'm off center a little bit, but what you want to do is have the back of the Yarbo level with, there's a yellow line in the back of the charging dock, and that has to be level with that. Now, you shouldn't be doing this often because once everything's set up and commissioned, the Yarbo's going to be taking itself to the charging dock and charging itself and then going and doing its job. So I don't think you really need to use this much after the initial setup, but we'll see once I've had it for a while. So yeah, I think it's charging now, but I guess I'll know once I commission the app and then check it. You have to set everything up on here. Maybe you have to do that first before it'll even charge. I'm not sure. I don't see any indicator that it's charging. Nothing's blinking or flashing. All the lights are on it that were on before, I believe. So, all right, let's jump to the next step now. And that's the final step. I'll download the app, pair everything together, and then walk the driveway with the Yarbo and set up its snow plowing pathway and wait for snow. All right, we're not quite moving on to the app just yet. That's because when I went in the garage, I realized I forgot a step for the charging dock installation, and that's adding these cable protectors. The short one here gets installed right where the cable comes out of the charging dock. You pin it down to the ground the same way you pin down the data center and also the charging pad. You use those long screw-in pins or the expansion bolts, and then you have this longer one where you set up maybe about a foot away from the smaller one. Pin that to the ground there. Now the purpose of this is if the Yarbo needs to maneuver somehow around the charging pad, you don't want it to get the cable caught up in the tracks or even get the cable up underneath the grill on the front and into the snowblower blades. So this is going to protect it. The Yarbo can go over this without getting the cable caught up in the track or in the blades itself. So good idea to install this. Now we're on to the app. So connecting the Yarbo app to your system is pretty straightforward, and Yarbo has a very good video on YouTube that explains the step-by-step process to pair the system. First, you download and open the Yarbo app and tap Add Your Yarbo. It's then going to ask you if you have a 2023 model, which they called the universal body at the time, or a 2024 or later model, now called the Yarbo Core, which is what I have. So I click on that, and then it asks if you've assembled and powered up the core, and it shows an animation of the core assembly as you are putting it together. And the app then searches for the core, and once it finds it, you'll see it listed on your screen. You tag the core, and it'll begin linking to the app. However, that's when I ran into an issue. The app was telling me that the unit needed a firmware update and that it would do it automatically. But I waited for many hours, nearly a full day, 7 or 8 hours, and it wouldn't update. And that presented a problem because it was preventing me from further linking the data center and the charging dock. So I did reach out to Yarbo customer service, and they walked me through some steps over the phone, and we reset everything and tried to get it to begin its update, but it wasn't doing that. So they issued a support ticket and said, we'll get back to you usually within 24 hours. So overnight, I woke up in the morning and I opened up my app and everything was updated. So now it was good to go. I don't know if they did it or if the system just takes a long time to do a firmware update, but it didn't give me any indication it was doing that, like no firmware update in process or anything, just it'll do it. So that was good that it was done. And I still don't have clarity on whether they pushed the manual update, which is what the customer service rep that I talked to said that they would do. They didn't send me any type of email or anything, but it is updated to the latest version. So that allowed me to continue with my update, which I had to first link the data center, and it needs to find satellites, which I was able to do. I have very strong signal here. It got more than 20 satellites. Yarbo told me that anything greater than 14 or 15 satellites gives you an excellent signal. And as I mentioned earlier, when you're positioning the data center, it has to have an unobstructed view. They say of at least 120 degrees. It's ideal to mount it on your side of your house where there's no trees or anything blocking it. But where I have it mounted was great. I had great satellites, so it's very strong connection. So I completed the pairing of the data center. And then you have to set up your docking station. So I went out in the yard and began that process. So what you have to do is position your Yarbo in front of the docking pad so it can back up onto that dock. And then you tag, here it is on the app. So you're establishing where it's located. You then back it up manually onto the pad and tag turn space test. The Yarbo will then execute a maneuver and drive off the pad, turn around, drive back up the pad to simulate cleaning off the snow first, because that's what it does. Before it backs onto the pad to charge, it first goes straight on, clears any snow that's there, then backs itself off, turns around, and backs up onto the charging pad, which is the maneuver that it needs to complete during this process. Now you'll notice I backed away once the Yarbo began the maneuver, and that's because it was sending out an audible warning that there was a person detected. You always want to be at least 10 feet from the unit while it's operating in autonomous mode, or you're going to get these audible alerts that a person is detected. Now once the Yarbo is done, you tap Save Position and you're finished. Okay, with the dock installed, the only thing that's left to do is to map out the work area and then adjust the settings to tell the Yarbo where to blow the snow, at what angle it should blow it, and so forth. But I ran into a problem. Every time I began the mapping process and backed the Yarbo off the charging pad and walked it to my driveway, it kept losing the GPS connection. Now you may have noticed the path to my driveway was on a sidewalk, which was right up against my home. So I contacted Yarbo and said, look, I can't make it from the charging dock to the driveway because of where I have to walk, and they suggested to move the charging dock, which I did. I moved it to the front of the house where the path to the driveway isn't right up against my home. And I began the mapping process. But the interesting thing is, where I would walk up against the house in front of my garage doors, I was having the same problem. And I kept getting this message that said, please navigate back to the nearest break point with a strong GPS signal to continue mapping. So it would lose the GPS connection, and you'd keep walking forward. You'd realize it 5-6 feet later that it's no longer mapping, and then it wants you to walk back to the previous point. Well, I did that a number of times, at least 10 or 12 times, and every time I'd get in front of my garage doors, it would lose the GPS connection. So I contacted Yarbo and said, look, I can't get past the garage doors. So they suggested a couple of things. Number one, they said, why don't you map out the long lower part of your driveway? That's the main part of the driveway. It's about a 5,000 square foot area from the house down to the street. And then there's the landing of the driveway, which once you get to the top of the driveway by the house, that's about 1,000 square feet. And it's kind of like a circle. So they said, why don't you do this? Map out the lower section first, just to make sure you can get that mapped out. And then map out the upper section. And if you're having trouble with the GPS signal, walk the unit away from the garage doors a little bit, because I was going right up to the garage doors because I want the snowblower to clear right up to my garage doors. And they said, maybe you're getting so close that the house is blocking the GPS signal. Maybe go 3-4 feet away from the garage doors. So I thought that was a good game plan. And I was able to map out the lower part of my driveway, and it worked just fine. I got it all mapped out. However, I wasn't able to continue. It got dark, and the next day I was actually leaving for the holidays, to spend the holidays up in Vermont with my in-laws. So I didn't have time to map the upper section, but I wanted to get something mapped. So at least if it does snow in the next week or so, I can check out how it works on the lower section, and then I'll mess around with the upper section. This is going to be a series of videos, not just one review video. I want to see how it works in wet snow and powdery snow and deep snow and so forth. So I was able to get the lower section of the driveway completely mapped out. And this is what it looks like on the Yarbo app. It shows that section. Now you don't see the upper section, but what I did was I then walked a pathway around the top of the upper section just to see if I can get it to work. I did it really quickly, and I was able to get it to work. This line here is the pathway. So I actually could have mapped the whole thing out, but it was getting super late at night. I didn't have time to deal with it. I'll deal with it when I get back after the holidays. But at least now I have the lower section of the driveway mapped. And then what you have to do is go into the settings and tell the Yarbo how to clear the snow in that area. So you click on the area settings, and you can see the driveway mapped out there. Now this section on the lower part here, this long section, is the driveway that I have mapped out. The upper section here where you see, that is the landing, but I just walked around the perimeter as a walkway. But I didn't map that area for snow clearing. It's just considered a pathway. As I said, when I get back after the holidays, I'm going to add that as an additional work area. So once you get into the settings there, you could see the things that you can adjust. On top here is the overlap. How many inches you want the unit to overlap. You could set it to 0. I wouldn't recommend that. I have it in the middle. It's going to overlap about 6 inches. And the auger speed, I have it set to balanced. All these settings here, I'll adjust as I use the Yarbo, but for now, I'm just kind of guessing what would work the best. And you have this route pattern. You can go in a circle around the driveway. You could also set it to parallel, so it goes back and forth. Then there's the auger minimum height setting, how high you want it off of the ground. I set it at about 1 inch. I may want to get that lower to really scrape down on the snow, but for now I'm going to try it at about 1 inch. The deflector angle of the chute, there's a safety buffer. It's set to 8 inches on how close you want it to get to things. And then you could also select work twice, which I have here. And in that mode, it will complete the work area and do it again. And then there's all the second work settings. So you could set everything for the second time it does the driveway. Like you notice here, I have the auger minimum height way down low to scrape the driveway a little bit better. The deflector angle there you can set, basically everything that you could set for the first time around. And then you click preview and you could see the driveway. You can see now it doesn't include the upper part of my driveway. That's just a pathway. And it actually shows you the path that it's going to take to clear the area. Okay, so I'm pretty much set up now. If it snows, I should be able to activate the Yarbo, and I don't even have to be home to do it. I could be somewhere else, and if it starts snowing, let's say if it does snow while I'm away, if I want to, I can turn it on, and it should leave the charging dock, do the driveway. When the battery is low, come back, charge itself back up. I may not do it the first time if it does snow while I'm away over the Christmas holiday, only because I haven't tested it yet, and I don't want it to like drive down my driveway and go out onto the street or something like that. I'll feel a lot better once I've used it once or twice. So I'm thinking if it does snow, and it is supposed to snow while I'm gone, I don't think I'm going to use it. I'm going to wait till I'm home. I think at least the first time that I use this, I want to be home so I can check it out and make sure that it's not doing anything crazy or leaving the pathway or something like that. But I'm all set to go now. And the next video that I do with this unit will be a review of it clearing my driveway in the snow. Now, I know I'm going to have to make tweaks. I'm certain that the first, run isn't going to be perfect. I'm going to have to adjust the settings. I'm also going to try to map out the upper part of the driveway so it does everything. I don't know how long it's going to last before it has to recharge. I have a big driveway, 6,000 square feet. Top to bottom, it's well over 300 feet. Will it be able to clear the whole driveway without having to go back and recharge? I'm not sure. But the one thing that I know for certain is this unit isn't for the customer that wants to just order something, take it out of the box, plug it in and use it. You can see that it's kind of a lot to prep before you can use the unit. And it's taken me many hours to assemble it, program it, do the mapping of the driveway. And I almost think that Yarbo would benefit if they offered like an assembly and setup service. I don't think they do that now. Now, none of this was actually difficult. Every step-by-step was kind of easy as long as you follow the instructions and have patience and take your time to assemble it, to set up the data center, to set up the charging dock, to map out your driveway. It's a lot of work on the front end. Hopefully, once you do all this, it works, and then you just press a button and it clears your driveway. We'll find out soon because I'm sure we're going to get a number of snowfalls over the winter. And as I said, I'm going to do a number of videos on this to test it out in all different types of snow events. But, so far, it was a lot. It took me many hours to get to where we are now, where I can use the Yarbo. So understand that hopefully that it's worth it. I'm still imagining the average homeowner getting this and getting frustrated, 3 or 4 hours into the assembly and setup and saying, I don't have time for this. But we put it together. We have it to a point now where it should work. And, it's risk reward. It's a big reward if it works. If this works and just clears my driveway, it'll be well worth it. Now, it's very expensive. And I think the MSRP on this thing's $5,000, $4,999. They have some really good specials going on now. I don't know if that's going to last. It was like holiday specials. But when you look at the price of snow blowers, a good high quality snow blower, which, I would need for this big driveway, it's half the price of this. And if this will actually do this, if I can just turn it on when it starts snowing, or actually I'd probably wait until I have 2 or 3 inches of snow, then turn it on, and then just let it run through the whole storm. This isn't a unit that you wait until it's done snowing and then turn it on. Well, maybe if you're only going to get 2 or 3 inches of snow, you could do that. But let's say we were going to get a foot of snow. I wouldn't wait till it stopped snowing and then turn this on. I'd turn it on when I had 2 or 3 inches and just let it run. It doesn't make that loud of a noise. It wouldn't bother my neighbors where I live, at least here. There's some space between homes. I'd just let it run all night. I would just let it continue to clear the driveway, charge up, go back out, clear the driveway again, and never let it get really deep. I mean, that's the beauty of this, is that you could just let it keep going and continue going. And it's not like you're out there for hours and hours snow blowing, but we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic. It's taken a lot to get to this point. And while I'm hopeful that it works, I also want to caution people that are potential customers that there's a lot of setup. It's many hours to put this thing together and program it to have your driveway. Now, my driveway is much more difficult than the average driveway. If you have a driveway that is just, 30 feet by 20 feet and you have clear, no obstructions, the programming part of it would probably be really simple. My problem was where I live on the kind of the side of, not really a mountain, but a very large hill with a lot of trees. When the unit was in front of the garage doors, it wasn't getting a GPS signal. That cost me like 2 days of messing with it, trying to get it to connect. And finally, I contacted Yarbo and they gave me a good plan. They said, do it in 2 sections. And I think that's probably the best way of doing it. When I get back after the holidays, I am going to try to program the top. But for now, we're good to go. My next video will be using the Yarbo Snow Blower. Hopefully a successful use, because it's been a lot of work getting to this point, and hopefully the reward will be there. So, well, that's all I have today on the setup, assembly, and programming of the Yarbo Snow Blower. If this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss my next installment on the Yarbo Snow Blower, and also all of the other electric vehicle content and electric vehicle charging equipment content that I put out here on State of Charge. I know this has been a long video. If you've made it this whole way, thank you very much for watching it, and stay tuned for my next Yarbo Snow Blower actual using review. Thanks for watching.